All right, everyone. Welcome. Uh, my name is Francois Biartanas. Today I'm here with the CEO of Cybercraft, Dennis, and he's going to be looking out for me. So if anybody have any questions or anything that they want me to answer or anything really, he's going to keep an eye on that for me. But that being said, like I said, my name is Francois. I am one of the lead cybersecurity instructor here at Cybercraft. And I get to develop courses, I get to teach courses. So I do a lot of things that are related to cybersecurity. So from time to time, one of the things that we do for our Discord community is to do one of these, right? One of these free sessions where we kind of train people or just give back to the community, really. Right? Just telling people some of the things that they need to do, those that are maybe studying or those that are just preparing for the cybersecurity certifications, whatever have you. So one of the things that we've done in the past is, if you're looking at the screen right now, is what I'm showing to you. So in the past, we recorded what we called a cybersecurity home lab. And one of the things that we did, it was to literally show people how they can set up a cybersecurity home lab that never expires, right? That they have access to indefinitely, right? It's in their home network and they can do whatever they want with it. So one of the things that we did was to set up pretty much like 4 systems. And then let me bring up my VirtualBox here so I can show you why we set it up. So we set it up a hackable machine known as a Metasploitable. This is a vulnerable machine that if you're in security, you're going to be hacking, right? You're going to be hacking and doing all kinds of stuff with it. Then we did set up a Kali Linux box, a Kali Linux machine that you will use to hack the Metasploitable. Now, these were the most important ones, right? These were the most important ones. If you're studying for, let's say, Security Plus or CISA Plus, one of those CompTIA certifications, you can do a lot of hands-on. You can get your hands dirty and do a lot of hands-on by using these. But also, we went a step further and set up a DC1. This is a domain controller, and this particularly is a 2019 server. And we set this one up because, let's face it, when you work in cybersecurity, you are securing or you are attacking Active Directory environment. So setting it up with DC1 made more sense because we wanted, we wanted to give you kind of that real world perspective. Then another thing we did, we set up a client machine. This was a Windows 10, right? So Windows 10, Windows 19, Kali Linux, Metasploitable. So that's what you should have if you did follow everything that we send out, or the things that we share with the community. Now, I understand some people might not have everything up and running, so we do have these videos on our YouTube channel, so you can just go back and watch those videos to set everything up. But in today's session, one of the things that we want to do is to add on top of what we've talked about, right? To add on top of what we have. So that's why it took a minute to talk about this, because if you don't have this, it really won't make any sense, or you won't be able to follow along. But that does not mean you should not watch the rest of the the rest of the session. Stick around, watch the rest of the session, and then maybe go back and get everything up and running. Then go back and finalize the session that we have today. So, what is today's session? Well, today we're going to talk about how to set up a firewall, specifically a pfSense firewall. So, if you were to open up your browser and just go to google.com maybe, or just go to pfSense.org, or just Google pfSense, it will take you to their homepage right here. And what I want you to do here is just download the program that we're going to be using. Okay, so go to pfSense and then click on downloads. Then once you're here, I want you to click on architecture, or you see where it says architecture. I want you to select, right? And then go to the AMD 64-bit, right? AMD 64-bit. And under installer, I want you to install the DVD, right? I want you to select the DVD because that's going to give us the ISO file, right? The ISO file, which we will be able to install that in VirtualBox, okay? Because that's what we're going to be using. All right, now once you finish doing that, you click on download, and that's going to download your pfSense program. Now I know this is going to take a minute. That's why I said maybe today you're just going to stick around, watch, and ask as many questions as you can. Then maybe go back and review everything we did so you can kind of mimic the things that I am doing right now. So this is downloading, but I'm not going to let you sit around and just wait for this whole thing to finish downloading. So what I did, I went on and just downloaded this thing already. And by the way, like I said, once you set up the home lab, the whole home lab, you'll be able to pretty much have everything that I have, like the 4 systems that I've mentioned that I already have here. So what I did, I already downloaded pfSense as a part of the Kali Linux. I mean, as a part of my cyber home lab, which I really, like I said, I really show you how to set up this in your environment as well. So once you have it downloaded, one thing that you're going to have to do is to extract the file, because you will be downloading this as .gz file, and you will have to right click on it, go to 7-zip, and then extract the program, right? Extract the files so you can get that folder. Now if you don't have 7-zip installed, you will have to install this program to be able to extract this thing. Again, if you follow the home lab, I show you how to install 7-zip as well. So that's good stuff there. So here is the ISO program that we're downloading right now, and this is what we're going to install. All right. So like I said, you must have a VirtualBox up and running. You must have everything set up the way you should be setting it up. Now what we're going to do today is to set up a firewall rules, and then after that we're going to configure VPN. Okay, that's kind of the agenda, if you will. So I'll show you how to install this firewall, how to configure, how to set it up, to configure a few firewall rules, actually one really. Then from there we will set up a VPN client, because that's one of those things that pretty much everybody's working from home now, and like you have to know how to do this stuff if you're working in cybersecurity. All right, so what we're gonna do here is in VirtualBox, it's click on a new. All right, for those that are following along, click on a new, and then in the name just type in pfSense space firewall, right? Something like that. And the type for pfSense is going to be BSD. Right? This is a kind of a flavor of Unix. Right? Just like how Linux is a flavor of Unix, BSD is also a flavor of Unix as well. Then as far as version goes, always 64-bit. So free BSD 64-bit. Right? Make sure BSD is selected and the version 64-bit is selected. And click next. Then here, they're going to ask you to select your RAM, right? Your random access memory. We're going to push that to 2 GB. Right now, we're on just 1 gig. So let's push that to 2 gig, which is going to be 2048 megabyte. Right, 2048 megabyte. When you finish with that, click next. Then click on create. All right, here, leave everything on default. Click next. As far as the storage goes, just say it's dynamic. Click next. Right, and on the storage here, or file location, just leave everything as it is, then click on create. All right, once you finish doing that, the firewall will be created, right? Kind of the guest machine of the firewall. So here what I want you to do is to right click on the pfSense, go to settings, and let's change a few things here, right? Go to systems and go to processor. I want you to give this thing 2 core. I mean, if the CPU can handle this. If not, leave this to 1 CPU. But for me, I can manage to get 2 because I want this to be fast. Then from there, I want you to click on the network. And in a network, I want you to attach this, right? Where it says adapter 1, I want you to attach this to bridged adapter. Bridged adapter means your firewall will be able to communicate with your physical machine, with your host machine, if you will. So right now I have my Windows machine that's running as my host machine. So when I bridged the adapter, this virtualized firewall will be able to communicate with my physical machine, which is what I want. All right, once you finish with that, click OK. There's nothing else we gotta do there, just click OK. And when you finish with that, I want you to double click on the firewall. All right, double click on it or just click on Start. All right, we're just gonna fire this firewall up, and please let me know in the Discord if I'm going a little bit too fast so I can slow down. Otherwise, this is being recorded and you will have access to it. All right, now that the machine it's a little bit up, they're gonna tell us, hey, look, we want you to select your disk or select your ISO file, and you see that little folder close to this this drop down menu here. I want you to click on that. And once you click on that, you will see where it says add. I want you to click on that. When you click on add, it's going to take you to your File Explorer, to your Windows File Explorer. Navigate where you downloaded your pfSense ISO file to. Most likely it's going to be in your download folder. But like I said, I've had everything into my my cyber home lab. So I'm gonna go there, go to the firewall, open a pfSense, click on the ISO program that I've extracted, and click on open, and it's gonna bring that in. Then as soon as that's in, I can click on choose, and now it's selected. Then I can just click on start. Now this is how you install, right? This is how you install pfSense. And looks like I'm getting a little bit of error message here from VirtualBox, and this is a USB error message. So good thing, because I can just troubleshoot this live with you guys. So right click on the pfSense, right? Just click OK on that little error message if you did get that error message. But if you did not, then just wait for me. All right, so we're gonna right click on the pfSense. We're gonna go to the USB section. Then we're gonna disable USB. Right? We don't need that right now. That's what is causing this issue. Right, disable that. We're gonna click OK. Then we will double click on the machine again. We will double click on pfSense. All right, give it a minute for the program to boot up. And here we are. So this is just going to take a minute. Installing pfSense, it's a straightforward process. It's not really a very big program. It's really minimal. So it should be finishing up in a minute here. All right, it's going in. It's pretty much copying the code from the ISO program into my virtualized hard drive. All right, now here they're saying, okay, are you ready to proceed? And I should accept. Now keep in mind that once you have pfSense up and running, your mouse is not gonna work anymore. So you'll have to use the keys on your keyboard, right? So I'm gonna just hit enter on my keyboard. And then it's gonna say, hey, welcome to pfSense. Great. Then what's selected here is installed pfSense. I'm gonna hit enter on my keyboard again. And they're gonna tell you, hey, continue with the default key map. I'm gonna say yes, I wanna do that. So hit enter again. And right here, this is where I want you to be careful, right? Because they're gonna tell you how would you like to partition your hard disk, and you want to boot your machine into the UEFI, right, UEFI or the BIOS, right? So pick one of these. We'll recommend you go with the BIOS. With the BIOS, or which is the second option, and then you hit enter. Again, you will do that on your keyboard. So those up arrow keys on your keyboard is what you will use to choose which one of these. So pick the BIOS, hit enter again on your keyboard, right, and while it's doing that, let me see if there's any questions in the chat here. All right, so far there's nothing. Okay. So what is happening right now, pretty much pfSense is installing. Okay, and like I said, it's really, really fast. Right now they're telling me, hey, look, the whole thing is now finished. So they're just asking me, hey, is there anything else you wanted to do? You know, any final touches that I would like to make? And the answer is no. So I'm gonna click no, or I'm gonna accept no. They're gonna ask me to reboot. Okay, I will hit enter on my keyboard again, hit enter on the keyboard to reboot. Now here's the trick part. Here's the trick part about pfSense. As soon as the reboot starts, you're gonna have to shut down pfSense. Like right now, you will click on the X button of VirtualBox. So as soon as pfSense is looking to restart, you're gonna have to shut it off. Right? You're gonna have to power off the machine. So click on the X and then power off the machine and you click OK. Right? And the reason you do that is this. It's weird because if you don't do that, pfSense, it's just gonna keep looping. It's gonna keep restarting over and over again. So every time you turn on pfSense, it's gonna go back to your ISO program. So what we're gonna do right now is to right click on pfSense and go to settings. Then go to storage, right? Go to that storage section. Then let's remove this ISO program because we don't need it right now. Everything was copied from here to here, so we don't need this thing. So I'm gonna right click on that and then remove attachment. Okay, remove attachment. Then click on remove. And what happens now is that as soon as I fire on pfSense, as soon as I turn on pfSense, it's just gonna boot from this thing instead of going to the hard drive, right? To the ISO program. When I click OK, then I'm gonna double click on pfSense to just turn it on. This will just take a minute to pretty much finalize the installation process. Now it's going in, it's rebooting. Close that little notification. All right, so now here we are. So the first thing that they ask you is, okay, should VLANs be set up? And the answer is no. Right? We don't want anything with VLAN. So type in no, then hit enter. That's the first thing you got to do. And the second thing is, okay, enter the WAN interface name. Right? I'm hoping you guys can see this okay. If not, please do let me know so I can make this a little bit bigger. Probably use some kind of a magnifier so you'll be able to see this. All right, the second one is saying, okay, enter the WAN, right, wide area network interface name. And it's going to be the EM0. I'm gonna say EM0. Hit enter again on the keyboard. And now they're gonna ask you into the LAN interface. We don't need a LAN for now, so just gonna leave default and just click or hit enter on your keyboard. And now they're gonna say, okay, everything seems pretty okay. All right, do you want to proceed? I'm like, yes. Just type in yes and then hit enter again on your keyboard. And now they're just gonna go ahead and just kind of pretty much finalize everything. And then that's it. That's pretty much the whole process of installing pfSense. It's really straightforward. There are a few other things I want to show you before we get into the fun stuff. But okay, here we are. Now, when the whole process finished installing, right? I'm making it bigger, it doesn't help. So when the whole process finished installing pfSense, they're gonna give you the IP address. All right, so I would recommend you write it down, right? You write it down, this IP address. Right now it's telling me the WAN IP address is that, and it got this IP address from the DHCP server. and that's okay because we're gonna change that later. So I'm gonna bring up my notepad. So if you have a notepad or if you have a pen and paper, just write it down. And I'm just gonna write that number down because I'm gonna need it. You're gonna need that number a couple times today. So I'm gonna just say pfSense. Just call it firewall, right? And then I'm gonna say IP address 192.168.1.251, right? And the subnet mask here, you can see it's a /24, right? That's the mask. So you can just call this mask /24 or 255.255.255.0, which is an equivalent to that. You're gonna need all these in a minute, so just write it down, make a note of it, unless you want to keep coming back here. All right, so another thing I want to show you guys is this. This is the kind of a configuration settings of pfSense, and most of the pretty much the firewall tools, they look similar when you're setting them up. So right here we have numbers, and behind those numbers there's some things that we can do. So for example, let's say that I want to assign an interface to this, where I can just type in 1, like right there. If I can turn on my keyboard here. So I can type in 1 and just hit enter on my keyboard, and it's going to allow me to, kind of assign an interface to this pfSense machine. I'm not going to do that because, like I showed you early on here, I only bridged my network adapter. So right now I just want one, right? Because this is very basic, right? But I can do that. I can also I can set interface IP address. Like I said, since this is a firewall, you probably don't want this to be on DHCP. You probably want a static IP address. I will be changing that from the web console, all right, with the web console, but you can change the IP address from here as well by tapping into and go on and just move forward with that. A few other things you can do here. You can open up the shell, you can ping host, and so on and so forth. And all you have to do is just type in the number here, and then it's going to take you to a little wizard, a little walkthrough that tells you exactly what needs to be done. All right. So for now, I'm pretty much done here. Right? I'm pretty much done here. Everything else is going to have to take place from the front end. All right. So I'm going to minimize this. I'm going to open up my browser, and I'll open up a new page. And here, I want to go to the IP address that we copied, right? I want to connect it to that firewall now. So all I have to do is just go into the browser and just type in that IP address. So I'll go in here, I'm going to say 192.168.1.251, I believe. I'm going to click enter and check this out. My certificate is not trusted. If you're studying for Security Plus, like Security Plus really talks about this in more depth, right? Browsers don't trust certificates because these are kind of a self-assigned certificates. Right? I will be showing you how to set up these in pfSense in a minute, but that's what you see here. And again, if you want to be trained on any of these, or if I'm speaking off of your head, please join Cybercraft. We have some pretty good training, some pretty good boot camp, and I'll be more than happy to give you more information about that as well. All right, so I'm going to click on advance, then proceed. And the default username and password for pfSense is going to be admin, and the password is pfSense. Right? Admin and the password is pfSense. We will change all that in a minute as well. So type that in there, click next. And here they're just gonna give you this little warning. Just check that box that you understand this, and then proceed. All right. And once you're here, there's this little warning that tells you, hey, you got to change your default password. Don't worry about that for now. Let's just proceed with the wizard, right? With this pfSense setup wizard. So click next. Then click next one more time, and now we're here. The only thing I want you to do here, right? I want you to just set up the DNS. So I'm just gonna type in Google's DNS server. DNS is IP address, and Google's DNS IP address is 8.8.8.8. Okay, we want this firewall to go to the web. Okay, I will be sharing with you why in a minute here. Okay, all right, 8.8.8.8. Click next, And then right here, you don't have to do anything, just leave everything on default. About time, click next. And here is where we're gonna change the DSCP. So right now, everything is set up to be on DSCP. So when I select that, then go to static, change this to static. That's under the config when interface. So let's change that to static. Scroll down until where you see static IP configurations, and this is where we want to type in the IP addresses. So the IP address for this machine was 192.168.1.254 or .251, if I can remember. Bring that up to verify. Absolutely, 251. And the subnet mask was /24, so class C subnet mask. I'm gonna pick that there, class C. And then one thing that we don't have is the gateway, right? The default gateway, which they call the upstream. So one way of finding this out is go into your CMD, your command prompt. So go into your physical machine, open up your physical machine, go to the CMD, open up CMD, and then type in ipconfig /all, right? ipconfig /all, space /all, hit enter, and the default gateway is going to be that information right there, right? Specifically for your Wi-Fi. So be careful. For example, I have all kinds of interfaces here. So you just need to make sure it's for the, if you're connected via Wi-Fi, right? Make sure it's for the Wi-Fi. All right, here, that's my default gateway. So 192.168.1.254. I'm gonna open up my notepad. I'm gonna make a note of that. I'm gonna just say gateway 192.168.1.254, right? And I'm gonna put that here as well. So 192.168.1.254. Make sure you get this information right, right? And again, it will just statically assign this information here because we don't want this to ever be changed. When you finish with that, we'll click next. Now we're at the section where we need to change the admin password. So right now, admin password can be changed to anything you can remember. I'm gonna keep it simple for me here. I'm gonna click next. And as soon as you finish with that, it's gonna ask you to reload. So click on reload. When that's finished, click on finish. It's gonna take a minute to complete everything. Pretty much apply the changes that we just made. Then you click on accept, close these little pop-ups, and then here we are. This, my friend, is the dashboard of pfSense, right? You've successfully installed a firewall. And that's one of those skills that you can put on your resume, by the way. So if you can say experience installing and configuring pfSense firewall, if you finish everything that I'm going to be sharing with you today. All right, now that we're here, there's some things that we have to do now, right? To get into the, to configure the rules that I mentioned that we're going to configure first. So I recommend, if this is your first time here, play around with this, right? Familiarize yourself with the interface, click through some things, right? So you can see what they have to offer. Again, if you're studying for Security Plus, a lot of this is really familiar to you. NAT, VPNs, right? IP security, L2TP. All these things should be kind of becoming really, you should be familiar with these topics or these protocols, if you will. And this is one of the best way to put those things into hands-on practice. All right, anyway, now that we're here, the next thing that we're gonna have to do is configure those rules. So what we're gonna do, we're gonna click on firewalls, then we're gonna click on rules. I'm gonna explain a few things right quickly here. When we click on rules, by default, a firewall is a very mean device, which means what you're looking at right now, the only thing that's allowed to happen right now is this anti-lockout rule. And what this means is that firewall, don't lock out this, all right? Allow Francois to access the interface. That's really what this means. That's really what this means. And that's why I'm able to access the interface. If I were to shut this off, I will lock myself out of this. Anyway, I just want to mention that there's an implicit deny. So if I were to force this machine right now to use this firewall, everything will be blocked, because by default the firewall is blocking everything. You don't see it, that's why we call that implicit deny, but that rule is here. So the firewall now is blocking everything except that guy right there. So what we're going to do, we're going to create a rule, but before we do that, let me do one thing. Let's go back to firewall and click on aliases. So aliases, it's like a placeholder. It's a placeholder for anything. So let's create an alias first to block some things. So I'm going to go here, I'm going to create an alias, and one of the things that I want to block is this website. It's known as defendtheweb.net. Right? Just be careful on the things that you want to block. Right? You don't want to block everything. So I was able to find a website that's designed to be hackable, so you can really hack this website if you want to. And this right here, it's known as defendtheweb.net, and that's the website we're going to be hacking. So what I need is the IP address of this thing, the IP address of this thing, because that's what I'm going to be blocking, right? When I create those rules. So what I'm going to do, just go to CMD one more time. Go to open up your command prompt. So go to the start menu of your Windows 7 or your Windows 10, if you will. Then open up your CMD. Then right here, type in nslookup. nslookup. Hit enter on your keyboard, and then type in that IP address, not the IP address. Just type in that domain name, defendtheweb.net. So defendtheweb.net. I'm gonna hit enter, and right now nslookup, it's going in, is telling me, hey, look, defendtheweb.net. Its IP address is this. So if we were to block this, then no one will be able to access this. And as you can see right now, I can access the site correctly. Like, there's nothing wrong with this. I can access it okay. But in a minute, you will see that the firewall is going to be blocking this thing. So I'll bring that up and I'll put that in my notes. So defend the web, all right? And I'll put in the IP address. It's going to be 3.10.42.19. All right, that's the IP address. All right. Once I have that, I need to go back to the firewall interface, and I'll create an alias. And like I said, an alias is just a placeholder, right? It could be for host, it could be for your network, ports, URL. It really don't matter. It could be for anything. So what we're going to do is just going to create a placeholder for that defend the web. So I'm going to call this defendtheweb.net. Right? I'm going to call that defendtheweb.net. It's a host, obviously. Right here, this is where we're going to put the IP address. So I'm going to just grab that IP address that I just copied. Come back here. I'll paste that in there. Right? Make sure it's accurate. And then I'm going to click on save. Now, the alias is created. I will show you how to use that in a minute, but make sure you apply the changes. Right? So I'm going to click on apply changes. And then now that alias is created. So go back to the firewall, or click back to the firewall, and then go to rules. And then here, click on add. Right, click on add. And this will take you to this place, or this firewall settings, where you will be able to add a rule. There's a lot of information here. I'm going to take a minute because I'm running out of time. I'm going to take a minute to kind of explain what's going on here. Well, because this is how most firewall function, literally. If you know this, you know majority of the other firewalls. It doesn't matter if it's from Cisco, Checkpoint, Palo Alto, what have you. They all pretty much have the same stuff, right? Some of them are a bit advanced than what we see here, obviously, but they accomplish the same thing. So the action is going to be pass, block, or reject. Now the difference between block and reject is that when they reject a packet, if we were to create a rule that's going to reject packets, it's going to notify the sender, right? It's going to notify the client that's sending the message, hey, that packet didn't make it, right? But if we were to block this, if the action were to block this, which is what we're going to do, it's not going to say anything, just going to block that thing and just move on, okay? We can disable the rule. If you just want to create the rule and just not use it, we can just disable it, but still created it. As far as address family or interface, we can just select the interface. Actually, let me just be doing this as I'm explaining it, right? It'll make more sense that way. So we're going to do that for the interface. Then as address family, it's going to be IPv4, but you can pick IPv6 if you want to. For me, it's going to be IPv4. Now for protocols, you have like a boatload or a plethora. I know one of the instructors that used to use that word, like a plethora of protocols here, right? We're gonna just say any, but you can pick TCP, UDP, what have you, right? Any for us, and that's it. That's the rule. And what we're doing right now, we're saying, hey, block anything that's coming from this interface that is using IPv4, that is using any protocol. That's what we're doing right now. And then the next step is, okay, source. Where are you blocking this thing from? Okay, where is this thing that we're blocking is coming from? And we can literally go in and decide which one, right? We can say, okay, if it's coming from any, just block it. But what we're gonna do here, we're gonna block this from a network, an entire network. And what I'm gonna do is type in my entire home network's IP address, .0. As you already know, again, if you're not familiar with all this networking and all this other stuff, please, join some of the trainings and get familiar with this. Get familiar with your networking, because in security you won't get far if you don't know networking. All right, network 192.168.1.0. I'm gonna say /24 because that's the mask I'm using. Okay, so right now I'm telling the firewall anything that's coming from this network, going anywhere, just block it. Destination, where is it going? It's going to a particular host. It's going to a particular host, and guess what? The alias is there as well. So this is where we're gonna pick that alias that we created. So I'm gonna search for defend, and that's gonna come up. I'm gonna pick the alias that we created. Another thing I can do is to log this activity if I wanted to. And if you do log this, for example, let's say that we have like a SIEM system, like that's the SIEM, right? A SIEM system. Well, we can have this firewall send the logging information to that SIEM, and then we can be looking at anyone who's violating this rule or any device that's violating this rule, which is pretty cool stuff. Right, when we finish with that, click on save, and the rule is created. Right, the rule is created. Another rule that we want to create, remember, the firewall have that implicitly deny. If we keep adding block, 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 just going to keep blocking everything. So what we're going to do, we're going to permit everything else. I'm going to click on add. I'm going to say pass anything, right? That's going anywhere, that's coming from anywhere, that's going anywhere. All right, any. Then I'm just going to click apply. That's all I had to do there, right? And here, what's going to happen is this: whenever the firewall is being utilized, it's gonna block here, but it's gonna allow everything else. It's gonna block anything that's going from this network going to that website, but allow everything else. When I'm finished with this, I'm gonna click on apply. And right now, if I were to go to defend the web, you can see that the website still works. And the whole reason is this. Let me see if I can demonstrate this for you right quickly. The whole reason why this is working is this. If I can bring my jump board quickly here. There we go. So what is happening right now? My computer, which is the computer that I'm sitting on right now, it's going to my router to get to the internet. Okay, that's why I'm able to see this website right now. The rule is there. The rule is there, but it's not being used because my computer is not going through the firewall. So what we're going to do, what I need to do is to change this computer's to tell this machine, the computer that I am sitting on right now, my physical machine, this machine right now, is to tell that guy, hey, go through the firewall first, right? Go through the firewall and let the firewall go through the router, right? And then get to the internet that way. So once I change this, then that rule will be applied, will be enforced, as you said here. I just want to kind of show you what we're dealing with, because sometimes it kind of gets confusing. Okay. Now to do this right here, here's what we're gonna do. Let me close that out. We're gonna go to the internet here, or I'm gonna go to control panel. Let me do it the old way. Control panel. So I'll go to start menu and then search for control panel. I'm gonna hit enter. Then I will go to the network and sharing center, right there, and I'll open up change adapter settings. I'll go to my Wi-Fi. Hopefully I don't kick myself out of the network. Then I'll scroll down a little bit. I'll pick IPv4, go to the properties, and right now, as you can see, this thing is configured to obtain the IP address automatically. So I'm gonna click there, and the IP address, I'll keep everything the same. So the IP address was that one, and no, not that one. Definitely not that one. Let me go to CMD. Let me see what the IP address was for me. When I close that, let me open up CMD. I'll do IP config one more time, and my IP address is this right here. So it's 192.168.1.203. I'm gonna put that in there, 192.168.1.203. Keep the same. The subnet mask will have to be class C, so 255.255.255. Now the default gateway, it's going to be the firewall's IP address. Okay, that's the only thing that's going to be different. So the firewall's IP address, if I bring up my notes here, it's going to be 192.168.1.251. So I'm gonna put that in here, 2.168.1.251, and then my domain name, my DNS, is going to be the firewall's IP address as well. So 192.168.1.251. Then here, just to be safe, I'm gonna put in a Google's DNS, right? Google's DNS IP address, just so I don't get kicked out of the internet. When I click OK,